Before I even get into today's video, let me just address something. I have hardly uploaded the past few days, guys. I think I only have 2 uploads in the past 5 days, and I apologize for that. The home buying process is very, very time intensive and has taken a ton of my time away. But don't worry, it's almost all wrapped up, baby, and we will be back up and rolling. Well, guys, we decided to buy a home for the very first time, and I want to go through the full process on why I think we might have got a good deal on this house, why we might not have gotten a good deal, why we decided to make a decision like this. I want to do this to help out all you guys who maybe haven't bought a home in the past or something, and you might think about buying a home in the future because it is a big process to kind of go through. Little backstory on me, we've always been renters. Like since I moved out of my parents' house at 21 years old, we've always rented, okay? And now I'm about to turn 30 this year, so here we go. It's time to buy the first home. So I just want to kind of go through everything with you, kind of the numbers and all those sorts of things and like the thought process, okay? So first off, I think it's important for you to kind of, figure out your situation and if it's right for you to buy a home. So me, I have a wife and I have 2 kids. One's 1 year old and one is 4 years old. So needless to say, they're going to start going to elementary school sometime soon. And sometimes it is nice to own a home and actually, be in a spot for, several years. It just kind of gives some stability in kids' life. So that's definitely a good thing, and that's one of the reasons. If I was a single guy, would I buy a home? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But if you have a family, you have kids and whatnot, sometimes it makes a little more sense. Also, I plan on being in Vegas long term. I live in Las Vegas, Las Vegas metropolitan area, I guess you can say. And plan on being here long term. We moved out here in 2015, and I have no plans of moving anywhere anytime soon. I love it out here. Obviously, no state income taxes. I love that. You guys know that. And I love kind of the lifestyle. We rarely even go to the Strip, but it's nice that anytime we want to go to the Strip, we can go to the Strip. That's pretty cool, okay? This number, I'm going to come back to this at the very end, okay? That number, $115,000, we'll come back to that at the end, and I'll explain what that number there represents, all right? Now, first off, let's talk about the house. So I don't want to give the specific square footage out, otherwise I'm sure people could find out exactly what house that is. I don't want anybody showing up at my door wanting to know what stocks I'm buying, okay? But the house is between 3,500 square feet and about 5,000 square feet, so it's a pretty big home, and it definitely suits our needs and things like that, okay? It's in a phenomenal area, probably the best area in Las Vegas metropolitan area, of all the suburbs and things like that. It's probably the best area. People can argue one area versus another, obviously. It's like that for pretty much any city across all of the United States. I mean, I'm sure people in Los Angeles feels like this zip code's better than another zip code and things like that. But it is a phenomenal area. Very, very low crime rates, like pretty much the lowest you'll find anywhere. And just a great area overall, all right? Some of the top schools, and I'll be honest, I don't care about that, okay? The top schools things, but here's what you got to understand. Whenever you go to buy a home, you've got to pay attention to the school district it is in. You've got to always pay attention to the schools that are basically in the area. Are those highly rated schools, or are they really crappy schools? Things like that. Like I said, for me, I don't think my kids' success long term depends on if they go to a great elementary school or a bad one or an average one or anything like that. However, you got to understand, a ton of people out there believe that their children's success is going to depend on how those schools are, those elementary schools, the middle school, the high school they go to. So if you're thinking about resale value, you've got to always take that into account, okay? In the area we bought this home, it's like top schools pretty much in Las Vegas metropolitan area. So for resale value, that is a great thing just because so many people value that so heavily when they have families and things like that, okay? So not something I personally care about, but I do care about it because it's going to affect the resale value, okay? Also, we like the home. I think it's very important. Like, you like wherever you live, okay? So I wouldn't just have bought this house because I think it might be a good investment long term. Buying the house because we also suits our needs and we like the home itself, okay? Very, very important. Great parks in the area, phenomenal restaurants. I mean, we still go to that area like all the time. I mean, where we live, there aren't really any good restaurants. So we drive, it's like 30 minutes away from where we currently live. We'll drive all the way over there to go eat at different sushi restaurants or Mexican restaurants or whatever it is. But also phenomenal parks in that area, which is, once again, another thing a lot of people pay attention to that have kids. Something I actually pay attention to probably more in the schools. Land in that particular zip code and area in general is running out. So in Las Vegas in general, there's still a lot of open land around the area, okay? In Las Vegas in general, the metropolitan area, there still is plenty of land to build plenty more houses. But in this specific zip code, in this specific area, the land has pretty much run out. There aren't just like a ton of, open lots where a new builder can come in and say, oh, let's build another big community here. It's just not the way it is in that particular zip code in that particular area. So you have to go kind of like further and further out now if you want to build, and you got to be in like Las Vegas in general if you want to build out, more homes and land in general. So I think that's a good, thing as far as, resale value once again, because it's not like you're going to be competing against all these new communities in the area. If somebody wants a new community, they're going to have to go way far away because that's just where the open land is. If they want to be in this specific area, this specific zip code, you're just going to have to buy something that's a resale essentially, because there's just not open land to just, let's just start more communities and more communities. All right. So I think that's a good thing. Okay. Now, also, this home is less than 5 years old, which means it's very modern. I like that from a styling standpoint. And also I like it from a resale standpoint, assuming we sell it in, let's say, 5 or 10 years. It should still be fairly modern. Times do change and obviously styles change and things like that. But generally, if you buy a new home, you're good for at least 10 to maybe 20 years as far as the home still looking modern. And then eventually, once you hit around that 15, 20 year mark, then it starts looking outdated. And you either need to remodel it and do things like that, or you have to sell for a little cheaper price and somebody else goes ahead and remodels it. All right. Now to some very important numbers. All right. So basically we got this home for 10% less on a price per square foot than the city it is in. 10% less on a price per square foot than the city it is in. That's always another thing you want to kind of pay attention to, is the price per square foot you're paying versus other homes in the area or in the city in general. We're paying 10% less. But here's even the better one. We're paying about 15% less on a price per square foot for this house than the zip code it is in general, okay? Which is even a more important thing in my personal opinion when you're talking about the zip code, because that's very, right around that area. We're basically paying about 15% less on a price per square foot than what everybody else pays, okay? So I think that's obviously a good thing. Also, here's another thing. I need that home to appreciate about $50,000 to break even on it. Now, why do I need it to appreciate about $50,000 during the time we own it to basically break even on that home? Well, because obviously you got to pay realtor fees when you go to sell it, okay? That's the big chunk of change. And then on top of that, we had the closing costs obviously as a buyer. So between the closing costs and what the realtor fees would be on a resale or something like that, basically we need the home to appreciate about $50,000 to break even. Anything past $50,000, then it's just straight profit after that, okay? So that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. And I might, we might rent it out long term and just hold it because it's in such a phenomenal area that's going to more than likely appreciate over time. We know things get more expensive over time. We might just hold it long term and just rent it out and use it as a rental property long term when we go to get our next house, whether that be in 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We could just rent out that house and just keep it long term. The house will probably appreciate over time, and obviously we'd be able to get all that rental income, which for a house like that, we'd probably be able to get maybe somewhere around $4,000 a month rental income, maybe up to $5,000 a month in rental income. So that is definitely a possibility, all right? And so let's bring it back to this last number here, the $115,000 number. Remember I told you guys I moved down to my parents at age 21. I'm 29 now. I'll be turning 30 this year. And basically I did the calculation on, the rough number of what we spend on rent. And it's around $115,000 I spent over the past 8 years in rent. So obviously landlords or apartment communities making money off us when we rent places and whatnot. They've made about $115,000 off it. So it is $115,000 that could have gone toward a home, but it was definitely not a situation where I regret, because at those times I wasn't ready to buy a home because one, we were going to move from Arizona to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm glad we didn't buy a home then because it just would have been a mess as far as trying to sell it and all those sorts of things. So I'm happy we waited and we didn't buy in Charlotte either, because then we ended up moving to Vegas, and this is where I love it, and this is where I want to, raise the kids and whatnot. So, but it is $115,000 that's gone, and the landlords got to make them money. So, good for them, and it all worked out for us. But I just wanted to kind of share this process with you guys and kind of the way I think about it and whatnot. Price per square foot, very important, and schools are always very important. Parks and restaurants, all that stuff is also things that people look for whenever they're buying a home. So let me know in that comment section if you guys think renting is smarter, buying is smarter, or it depends on the situation. It depends on what situation you were in personally. I would love to hear from you guys down there in that comment section. And if you got any questions, let me know also in that comment section. I'll try to answer as many of them as possible. Obviously, I answer more comments if you respond in the first hour, all right? Thank you for watching and have a great day.